9 experienced hikers, 1 frozen mountain, and a mystery that remains unsolved more than 60 years later. Deep within the icy wilderness of Russia's Ural Mountains, something happened that still defies explanation. On a freezing night in February 1959, 9 young explorers suddenly fled their tent. They left behind their supplies, their warm clothing, and even their boots. Some were found barefoot in the snow. Others were discovered deep inside the forest. None of them survived. To this day, no one knows exactly what forced them into the darkness that night. This is the true story of the Dyatlov Pass Incident. What they left behind would become one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in modern history. And the questions still remain unanswered today. The expedition began on January 23, 1959. For the group, this was another challenging adventure. Their goal was to cross the northern Ural Mountains and earn one of the highest hiking certifications in the Soviet Union. Leading the expedition was Igor Dyatlov, a skilled and respected mountaineer who carefully planned every stage of the journey. Day after day, the team crossed frozen rivers, climbed snow-covered slopes, and ventured deeper into one of the most isolated regions of Russia. The weather grew colder, the winds became stronger, yet the group remained confident. On February 1st, they reached the eastern slope of Kholat Syakhl. As daylight slowly faded, they pitched their tent on the mountainside, unaware that it would become the final place they would ever see alive. By the afternoon of February 1st, the weather had changed dramatically. Strong winds and heavy snowfall made it difficult to follow the planned route. Instead of turning back, the group decided to keep moving. Without realizing it, they had drifted farther off course. As darkness approached, reaching the safety of the forest was no longer possible. Igor Dyatlov made a difficult decision. The team would set up their tent on the exposed mountainside. It was a calculated risk, one that experienced mountaineers sometimes had to make. Everything still seemed under control. No one could have imagined that within a few hours their camp would become the center of one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. That evening, the storm grew even stronger. Powerful winds swept across the mountains while heavy snow buried everything in sight. Inside the tent, the hikers settled in for the night, believing the worst was outside. Then, something happened. No one knows exactly what they heard. No one knows exactly what they saw. But in a matter of seconds, everything changed. The tent was suddenly torn open from the inside. Instead of using the entrance, the hikers escaped through the ripped fabric and ran into the freezing darkness. Most of them left without their boots, without heavy jackets, without the supplies they would need to survive. It was a decision that made no sense, unless they believed staying inside was even more dangerous. When rescuers finally reached the campsite, they were met with a scene that made no sense. The tent was still standing, but it had been cut open from the inside. Nearby, a single trail of footprints led away into the frozen forest. Some prints showed bare feet. Others belonged to people wearing only socks. The search teams followed the trail through the deep snow. Hours later, they made the first discovery. Beneath a large cedar tree, 2 members of the expedition were found. They had no winter boots, no heavy coats, only thin clothing against the brutal Arctic cold. It was only the beginning of a mystery that would become even stranger with every new discovery. As more bodies were discovered across the mountain, the mystery only grew deeper. Nothing about the scene matched what experienced investigators expected to find. As the search continued, investigators uncovered even more disturbing evidence. Several more members of the expedition were eventually found, scattered across the mountainside. Some had suffered severe internal injuries, broken ribs, crushed skulls, yet many showed almost no serious wounds on the outside of their bodies. The strange combination left investigators with more questions than answers. What kind of force could cause such devastating injuries without leaving obvious external damage? Decades later, experts still debate that question. The mountain had revealed its victims, but it refused to reveal what had truly happened that night. As investigators examined the evidence, the mystery only became more complicated. Some of the victims' clothing showed traces of radioactive contamination. Several official documents remained classified for years. These unusual findings fueled decades of speculation. Some believed the hikers had witnessed a secret military experiment. Others suggested an avalanche or powerful katabatic winds forced them to flee. There were even stories about strange lights seen in the sky that night. Yet none of these theories could fully explain every piece of evidence. More than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of history's most debated, unsolved mysteries. Even today, new investigations continue to challenge old conclusions. The truth may still be hidden somewhere beneath the snow. In recent years, scientists have returned to the Dyatlov Pass mystery with modern technology and new research. One of the strongest explanations suggests that a small delayed avalanche may have forced the hikers to leave their tent. Others believe powerful katabatic winds created extreme conditions that made staying inside impossible. These theories explain many of the physical clues found at the scene, but not all of them. Several questions still remain unanswered. Why did the group travel so far into the forest? Why were some victims dressed in the clothing of others? And what caused the fear that drove them into the freezing night? Even today, the mystery continues to divide experts around the world. More than 6 decades have passed since that freezing night in the Ural Mountains. Investigations have been reopened. Scientific studies have been published. New technologies have examined the evidence again and again. Yet no single explanation has answered every question. Perhaps the truth was lost beneath the snow long ago. Or perhaps some details were simply never meant to be discovered. The Dyatlov Pass Incident continues to challenge scientists, historians, and investigators alike. Not because there are no theories, but because none of them can explain every piece of the puzzle. And maybe that is exactly why this mystery refuses to disappear. More than 60 years have passed, yet the Dyatlov Pass Incident continues to fascinate the world. Perhaps science will one day uncover every answer, or perhaps some mysteries are destined to remain unsolved. What happened on that frozen mountainside may never be known with complete certainty. But the story of those 9 hikers continues to remind us how small we truly are against the power of nature, and how some questions can outlive generations. Every winter, the wind still crosses the same mountains. The snow still covers the same trail. And somewhere beneath that endless white landscape, the unanswered questions remain. Perhaps the mountain remembers what happened. Perhaps it never will. For now, the silence is the only witness left. This is NEXORIS, exploring the world's greatest mysteries.